Yeah, I'm not going to put on those sunglasses. They might look cool, but they're actually quite annoying. They're uncomfortable, they pinch my nose, and they're hard to see with. I'm really not sure why people wear sunglasses. Well, I mean, unless the sun's out, yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? If it's actually there's actually sun in your eyes instead of being inside trying to look cool. I guess drug addicts would wear sunglasses, but because it would dilate their pupils and it would hurt their eyes. Is that why they? Or they didn't? Yeah, they didn't want to see that. Didn't people to see that their pupils were dilated? Maybe that was it. All right, I actually got a video removed, and I'm not really sure why. They said it was because of COVID, the claims I made about vaccines. What I said about the vaccines is I agreed that I was vaccinated 3 times, by the way, that vaccines, I mean, it's 99% of the information is the vaccines are safe and effective. And I said, hypothetically, say, I don't know the real numbers is, say they're sensitive people, and the vaccines kill 5 people, but they save the lives of 10 million or a million or 3 million or however many ever lives these vaccines saves, and they do, and they're safe and effective, and it's amazing that our medical community can make them. I also said that either they're provided free to everyone or no one should get them, which is kind of communistic. I'm not really sure if that's why they banned the video. And then I went on about the transgender thing, about I'm fine with adults doing any crazy thing they want with their body. They feel like a girl, they can wear a dress, that's fine. Be gay, be a lesbian. I just felt that doing it to kids was rash. We don't let kids drink. We don't let kids smoke. We don't let them drive cars. We don't let them get credit cards. I don't think we let them vote. We don't let them vote. We don't let them work till they're about 13 or 14, do we? I don't know. I remember, I think it was 16 when I was a kid. You had to have a work permit. I don't know if you need a work permit anymore. They're just trying to protect kids. But evidently, if they want to have their genitals mutilated, that's perfectly all right. The thing is, a lot of them are regretting it now. Once their complications, their suicides. I'm just saying we should take. I'm not trying to disparage transgender people. I know that there's a very confusing issue, especially for old people like me. That it's very emotional for these people. They're hurting. They're confused. But I'm just not sure that the medical community is helping them. Now, that's not why they banned the video. They banned the video because they said that I gave out misinformation about COVID vaccines. I said one thing about COVID vaccines. I agreed that with the medical community very strongly that these things were safe, effective. I also said I was, not anymore because the emergency's over, that I was really on the side of making them mandatory and making people get passports. A medical emergency is a very, very serious thing. I've got my, I want to show you something. I've got my vaccination documents. I don't know if people still look at them, but I've got them right here. I was vaccinated 2 or 3 times. Yeah, Moderna, and Pfizer. 11/8/21, 3/8/21, and 4/15/21. Right here. Okay? Right here. I guess it was 2 years ago. I haven't been vaccinated since, but I don't think it's required, is it? I think you're required, and people were angry about that. But I think now that the emergency's over, I respect that people would feel badly about being forced to get vaccinated. But it was a medical emergency that time, the masks and everything, and maybe they didn't do everything perfectly, but they were trying to save lives. And that's what happens during an emergency, like during a war. They suspend habeas corpus. They rounded up all those poor Japanese people. Was that warranted? I know it was a war, and they were afraid that the Japanese were gonna do nefarious things. The only reason they didn't round up my people Well, they did round up my people in Germany. But I'm one of these weird people that's a little bit this and a little bit that. I'm what the Germans used to refer to as an eine Mischling, a mongrel. I'm 96% Germanic, well, German and French. My family was someplace from Metz, which is in Alsace-Lorraine. But according to 23andMe, I'm from Bavaria, someplace called Overijssel, which I guess is in the Netherlands, and Baden-Württemberg? I don't know. It was a long time ago. The Dutch people came over relatively recently. The Dutch are strange. I think they're from another planet, really. What are you gonna ban me now for saying disparaging things about the Dutch? Do I have to show you my 23andMe that I'm so infected with this Dutch DNA? It just makes me, want to smoke marijuana and go looking for a Ukrainian hooker. I'm sorry, that's terrible because I support Ukraine. Why can you? I mean, this was what I was saying. Should you ban somebody? I'm starting to change my mind now that I've been censored. Should you ban somebody for saying something that is patently false? We never made it to the moon. The Earth is flat. Evolution is a lie. The Holocaust didn't happen. The Holocaust did happen. It was terrible. I know. My own family was affected by it. But my only statement wasn't that the vaccines didn't work or that they were dangerous or they were committing genocide. It was that should we silence people for saying outrageous things in a free society? And they took my video down for saying that. Now, for the record, my sincere belief is that those vaccines were safe, they were effective, people should have been vaccinated, people should have been wearing their mask. I still have a mask right here. I get up in the morning and I put my mask on. See? I'll put my mask on here to prove, I'm not one of those rebel firebrands. I'm just making a point about free speech. And this is chilling that you take my video down for saying that. Or not, and I'm not even saying that transgender people are like freaks, or that we should round them up and put them in camps, or that they're not people. I'm not saying anything like that. You'll probably ban me for saying that I'm not saying that. And I'm not sure people should say things like that. That's horrible to say things like that. I really believe that. But what I am saying is, I think if you be you, if you and a psychiatrist feel that you're gender dysphoric and you're confused in your brain and you feel like a woman and you're a man's body, modern science has done some amazing things, sent us to the moon, invented the internet. I think it's being exaggerated for maybe money or maybe because it's like an ideology going amok. But I'm sure it's a real thing, and I'm sure that it exists and always has. People like that have always had existed, and hermaphrodites and intersex. And there's no point in disparaging these people or putting them down or saying that they're any less human. We should treat them with dignity and we should treat them with respect. But with this thing with the kids, the critical race theory and making little white kids, or even me, because I feel myself, you're bad, you're white, you owned slaves. My ancestors never owned slaves. And we're not giving anybody reparations because look, when you want to know what we did with slavery, we came to this country dirt poor peasants. We never got any privilege. They hated us because we were Catholics. No Irish, no Italians, no Jews. And we were like, checked all of the above. Nobody wanted us in their country club. Nobody wanted us in their neighborhood. Nobody wanted us to work for them. They all thought we were in the mafia. There was a in Louisiana when they lynched some Italian people. On my birth certificate, it gives my mother's name as Verlaine Sanos. She was from Alsace-Lorraine, but someone was saying, well, I said it was Sans. Why does it say Sanos? Where is my birth certificate? Well, it's downstairs. Why did it say Sanos? And the woman my counselor that was helping me says, I deal with a lot of people, and they go get their documents, and they do their history, and they found out all kinds of crazy things that their family hid from them. Like we're so freaked out about the Holocaust, we never talked about having any Jewish blood. That was, we deny it to this day. We will adamantly deny that. I don't even know if we did. My grandmother, this is honest to God, my grandmother told me one time when I was going off about the Jews, she says, you know, she had blonde hair and blue eyes. She says, I don't know if she was joking or not. I shouldn't even talk about this. She said to me, and I swear to God, I remember this, she says, you know, there's a little Jewish blood in the family, so you might think about the next time you're ranting and raving about how much you hate Jews, that you might think about the fact that you actually... And then she said she was joking, but that was the family. And the Dutch side of the family actually hid Jews during the war, and they had some pretty horrible stories. So it's something we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about being German, because everybody hated the Germans during the war. And God, you didn't talk about having any Jewish blood, because everybody hates the Jews. Everybody hates the Jews, and it's like, why even mention it? Because like you're not a full-blooded member of the tribe, and so you don't get dibs on going to Israel or anything like that. And you can't even really prove it. It's just like this little blip in 23andMe. So it's like, all it's going to do is cause you misery. We didn't talk about being German. We didn't talk about being Jewish. We certainly didn't talk about being French. The Dutch are funny. They're very pompous people. My dad used to, till the day he died, had a big shirt that said, Dutchman. They are so arrogant. They are very, and that orange. If you're Irish, I'm very sorry. I apologize. I actually gave money to I actually put Armalites in crates. No, I'm lying. I'm just making, a lot of this stuff isn't true. I'm creating a fictional character. But plausible deniability. I'm just making a fictional character. I knew a guy, he was a drug dealer for the IRA. He'd raise money, he'd buy weapons, and we'd put things in crates and send them to Belfast. And then we'd say we're giving money to the Northern Aid. But I felt bad. Because, I mean, it was 300 years ago, but, you know, the William of Orange and the Battle of the Boyne, the Irish are nice people. Well, they can be nasty. I mean, you don't want to deal with the Irish mob. They're really vicious. You know, the Italians are very civilized, actually. You're dealing with the Russian mob, but the Southies, they will. It's like the Departed. They will f you up, man. The Southies will. You don't want to mess with the Irish. But I like them. Look at Ireland now. It used to be a very conservative country. Being gay was like 5 years in prison. Divorce was illegal. Abortion was like, I don't know what they did. They burn you at the stake. They legalized divorce. They legalized being gay. They legalized gay marriage. They had a gay prime minister. They call it a teosich. And then they legalized abortion. And they didn't do this with the Supreme Court. This is what I really like about the Irish. They vote on everything. I mean, people say that the democracy is a terrible system and it couldn't work. But with the Irish people, and these aren't my people, I like them so much I used to pretend that I was Irish because we had the last name Sands, and I used to hang around with them, and I was Billy Sands. There was another made-up person. My birth certificate does say Sanos, and my grandmother did say that one time, although her name was Lauer. I don't know where the Sanos came from. That's not Jewish. That's like Greek, right? But it says right on my birth certificate, Verlaine Sanos. I mean, Paul Verlaine was this guy from Alsace-Lorraine. I probably shouldn't even mention the name Sanos, because that's like you can... And Zenz was another family name. That's very German. But there are a lot of French names in the family, too. And then those god-awful Dutch people. God. Van Dyke, the Van de Hels, the Van de Staads. No, wait, we're not related to them. Sorry. We might be. It's like we're related to half the country. I don't think we're related to Dick Van Dyke. Yeah, they're the strangest people on earth, the Dutch. But they're actually very interesting. They have the shortest work week. They don't work a lot, so you'd think they're lazy, but when they do work, they're extremely productive. They had the highest work productivity, I think, in the world. They got a nice little country. They're not like rich, although their GDP per capita is like, I think 55, depending on whether you count purchasing power parity, it's between 55,000 and 60,000. Ours is like 70,000. But we work 40 hours a week and they don't. Their work week is like 28. They take pictures of opium poppies and they go out in the field and take pictures of kitty cats, and they're into nature. And you think they'd all be in the red light district screwing hookers and taking drugs, but they're not the least bit interested in any of that. They got a bottle of Heineken and maybe some Genever, which is basically mint-flavored gasoline. 99% of the country has no interest in going to the red light district. They have no interest in prostitution. They have no interest in drugs. That was just for tourists. But if you want to go do that, go do that. The whole thing with the euthanasia, they're saying, oh, they're killing off all their old people. That's another thing. If you want to, well, that's the thing, like with the transgender thing. If you want to off yourself, you got to go before a board of doctors. And the Netherlands is like the least corrupt country. And you look at the Corruption Perceptions Index. At the top, is it the top of the list or the bottom? At the top of the list of most honest countries, you have like Denmark, Norway, Finland. I think Singapore's up there too. Singapore's good. Japan's good. You got the Asians and you got the Northern Europeans. Germany, actually, you know, is a little too honest. If you're going to tell, the German philosophy is, you're going to tell a lie, tell a big one. They're actually quite scary people. They're impressive. You have to be impressed with all the things that they've done, but some of the things they've done are not impressive. They're frightening. Like that whole thing with Mengele and everything. It's like, how would a human being even think of doing that? Well, that was the one story about the Ustasha, that the Gestapo, only time the Gestapo even attempted to intervene to, like, not save Jews, but end their suffering, was with the Ustasha. They were horrified at the unspeakable cruelty that was being inflicted. I read some of the things they did, and I couldn't believe it. It was just like from hell. I'm not going to even mention it because I don't want to get banned. But if you want to do some, the Croatian Fascist Party, the Catholic Fascist Party of Croatia, the Ustasha, and I've talked to Croatian people, real Croatian people. I mean, I've talked to immigrants, but I mean people from Croatia, and they are the nicest, sweetest people. They really are. It's like, are all Germans Nazis? Are all Russians communists? It's like, it's always, are all Americans in the Ku Klux Klan? It's just always a small minority of assholes that make things, are all black people and with the Black Panthers? I don't know. Be it Black Lives Matter. Is that a bad thing? Any sort of militancy can go too far. If you're a black person and you want to kill white people, I don't think that's nice. I mean, I understand why you'd be angry at us. I really do. But that's not constructive. Now, getting back to why I was banned, I might not even be able to put this up for a whole week on YouTube. Or I might not be able to post on YouTube ever, because I sent them a nasty note calling them communists and Bolsheviks and the Gestapo, because they really do have a duty to actually watch a video. And I will repeat what I said. I'm pro-vaccine. I was vaccinated 3 times. I showed you my passports. I still have them. I was so pro-vaccine, I was angry that people weren't getting them. And I thought maybe it might be necessary to actually start arresting people, which I regret even thinking in my brain now. But I mean, they were like, you couldn't go into grocery stores, you couldn't go to the movies, you couldn't go to a venue that was crowded. You had to show a vaccine passport. Now, hopefully that's all over, because in retrospect, it was an emergency. And people say, oh, well, we were falsely led to believe it was an emergency. Well, people make mistakes. I think it's better to err on the side of caution. All that's over now, I would say, if they tried doing that again, I would be very reluctant to see that happen, because that is kind of, these are very, very much violation of constitutional civil liberties. But I say the Constitution goes right out the window during an emergency. Like if there was a civil war and people were, I mean, I don't even know why they don't declare a state of emergency with these mass shootings every day. Do you think they banned me because I said, I didn't even say guns should be banned. I said we should at least be able to talk about abolishing the Second Amendment. I said maybe that would be a good idea, maybe. Another thing, I said why are they mad at me? I didn't say we should ban handguns and semi-automatic rifles like they're doing in Canada. I said that's one way of doing it, but that might even be necessary. There are countries like the Czech Republic and Switzerland and Italy and Austria that have. Alexa, what is the homicide rate in Austria? Alexa, what is the homicide rate in Austria?
As of 2016, the murder rate in Austria was 0.7 murders per 100,000 people.
That's low. Ours is, Alexa, what's the homicide rate in the United States?
As of 2015, the murder rate in the United States was 4.9 murders per 100,000 people.
Okay, so you see, and that's a lot higher because when during COVID it went. She doesn't know, but I've seen figures that went as high as 7. I mean, it didn't go back up to like 9 or 10 like it was 30 years ago, but it really spiked, and now I think it's starting to come down again. Gradually, but boy, especially with that defund. Now, I'm not for police brutality, and I know that that's a problem. But even a bad, and I get emotional about this too, because I'm saying, darn police, that what are they? And some of them are lunkheads. Some of them don't belong being cops. They're brutal, they're stupid, and they shouldn't be cops. But even a cop like that is better than no cop at all. So maybe we should hold off on being so critical to them, because there's a thin line between civilization and just lawless chaos like they had in Seattle, or at least cities like San Francisco and LA, where you've got these drug addicts armed with knives and baseball bats beating on people and stealing their stuff or running into stores. As long as the crime isn't violent. But I mean, they are violent, attacking people for saying things not against transgender, but there was a feminist, a leftist feminist who was going around giving lectures saying, transgender females, which are men that have transitioned to females, are not really female. Females are created by nature or God or whatever you believe. I don't know. Let's just say God. We don't know. Maybe it's Spinoza's version of God. God might be everything. Whatever you're. Not the Christian God, but just a higher power. Made us all the way we are because he was in a perverted mood. But one sex produces sperm and goes inky, 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 and the other has to put up with smelly, grumpy men, get me a beer, meathead. And I feel sorry for you because we are pigs. And has babies and has to nurture them and protect them and make sure the man doesn't come home and beat him with a beer bottle or shoot them with his gun or run over them with his car in a bad mood. Try to control us. And I don't blame you for trying to do that, You never take me anywhere. Look at your man cave. It's a mess. You spend all your money on alcohol and your friends. Why are you smoking in here? You're going to give the kids asthma. You're going to have high blood pressure and you eat too much meat. That's why men that are married live 10 years longer than single men. Nagging women keep us alive. And thank you for that, although it makes us miserable. But we're idiots. We deserve it. Women, on the other hand, that are married live 10 years shorter lives than women that stay single, because they've got to put up with men and they've got to have kids, and that's so. Having a kid is, even with modern technology, is so hard on the body. It's like being wounded. I think it's like being wounded in war. It's terrible. I saw it once in a French movie. I'd never seen it before, and they showed it on the movie like real. The baby popping out. It's like, oh my God. I was constipated once, and that came. Something like that happened to me. I was sitting on the can for like 10 hours, and finally when it came out, it was like a grenade went off in my butt. Will they ban me for talking about this? But that really hurt, and my butthole was bleeding, and I thought I was like emotional, and it was traumatic, and it really, really hurt. I almost called 911, and that's nothing like giving birth. That's just being constipated. It was like a 10-pound turd. It was awful. You don't have to watch this. You could turn it off if you want. But I'm telling you that I never said that the vaccines weren't effective, or that I never said the vaccines killed people, because I know that's not true. Because my sister's a doctor, and she's very wise, and she's one of the few genuinely good people. And she's so frustrated, too, because, she's trying to keep kids alive, and she's such a good person. She would never, ever tell people to do something that was harmful. She's just not capable of it, because I think she's kind of like a saint. But I mean, that's because I don't know. I shouldn't say that. That's like a stupid thing to say. But I feel bad sometimes because I'm such a rotten brother. I'm kind of like a bum, you know. And I am a little mental. But she's very patient with me. But she was mad about that because I was not careful, and I might have accidentally. I don't know. My dad might have given me COVID because he was always going out with his girlfriend and during COVID, like birthday parties and things like that. And yeah, we weren't behaving ourselves. We took it really seriously for about 3 or 4 months, and that was like we don't want to play this game anymore. And it wasn't a game. So I know that childish, rebellious thing against the COVID. And as soon as the vaccines came out, boom, 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 I got it 3 times. But I was like, you know, well, it's like I've got diabetes and I've got to take medicine every week. So it's like, oh, why didn't one shot do it with the COVID? Look, every week I've got to take diabetes medicine or I die. Okay, or they have to amputate my foot. Polio, you got stuck in an iron lung. People are just such idiots when they don't practice this. I've talked to people, doctors. A lot of people said, yeah, they didn't quit drinking. They didn't quit eating sugar. And they had to have their thumbs amputated. They had to have their legs amputated, their toes amputated, because they were just stupid and stubborn and they wouldn't listen to the doctor. And I was saying, I realized how wrong I was. The vaccines were effective. We should have worn the masks. My point was only, and it's like when I was young and I argued with my mom about marijuana. I'm not saying marijuana is good for you. I'm not saying alcohol is good for you. I'm not saying tobacco is good for you. Guns aren't necessarily good for society either. People, they say they save lives, but they obviously don't. Look at Japan. There are no guns, and they've got the lowest crime rate in the world. I know Switzerland has a low crime rate, but Japan has no guns. Singapore has no guns, and they have a crime rate that's like half of that of Switzerland. So the Swiss have pretty easy access to guns. But here's the thing. You got to get a permit. You got to get a license. You got to go through a background check. And if you misbehave and get like traffic tickets or drunken disorderly or anything like that, if you indicate, because they're Germans, right? If you indicate in any way that you're not a good, solid member of society, they'll come and they'll take your guns away from you. Or if you leave a gun out where a kid can get it and they murder somebody, you suffer the same penalty as the person that committed the crime. You are responsible for that gun and you're responsible for keeping it away from crazy people. That is your responsibility. And we completely lack that. Do we need to ban guns? No, maybe we need a licensing system to make sure that the people that are getting the guns are law-abiding and that they're not crazy. And it does work because obviously Switzerland and Austria and Czech Republic, you can have a gun, but they make you go through that vetting process. And their homicide rate is like 1/10 of ours. And so their crime rate is much, much lower than ours. Much safer societies than ours is. Much. What I'm saying is, I mean, with like wide legalized marijuana, even I don't know if it's as bad as alcohol, but maybe alcohol should be illegal. Wait a minute, we tried that, and it had some effect. It reduced consumption, and alcohol would make people so crazy they'd have to put them in sanitariums, and cirrhosis and violence and disease attributed to alcoholism went down during Prohibition. Alcohol consumption stayed at lower levels right up until 1970. So for 40 years, Prohibition had affected our alcohol consumption rates and kind of kept it from raising it. It didn't go back up to pre-World War, pre-Prohibition levels till the 1970s. Like 40 years after Prohibition ended, and we were still not drinking the way people used to drink. The reason people used to drink was actually pretty logical. The water would make you sick, and often would not just make you sick; it would kill you. Beer would kill you much more slowly. Beer, wine, even like whiskey, was distilled or brewed, and the bacteria and the filth in like polluted water wasn't in it, so the bacteria would kill you immediately. Alcohol, if you drank excessively, would kill you much more slowly. I mean, if you just imbibed in moderation, you could live a relatively normal life. If you got addicted or you were a addictable personality, yeah, you had a problem. That's why in Europe, right up until I think when I went to Spain in the 80s, it was even true, a bottle of water, good bottle of distilled water, mineral water, was more expensive than a bottle of wine. It was probably more valuable to them. Because, a cheap bottle of wine, you drink it, because I mean, I don't know whether it was Morocco or Spain. Oh man, I had diarrhea. This is what you get when you're on my channel. They probably won't let me post this on YouTube. I'll have to put it on Facebook. I had diarrhea so bad when I came back from Morocco. I thought my intestines were going to slip out my sphincter. It was awful. It was like the whole night I was up and back. I thought I was going to die. So that's and they said, "Did you drink the water?" And I said, "No." And some guy looked at me and says, "Did you drink soft drinks?" I said, "Yeah." "Did you?" "Oh, well, that didn't do it." I said, and it says, "Yeah, but did you order con hielo?" And I go, "What's hielo?" And it says, "Ice." "Did you order ice?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "The ice freezes the." I said, "No, it doesn't. When that ice melted, there was bacteria, and I figured it was frozen. It would that freezes the bacteria, right?" "Not necessarily, evidently." He says, "Well, that ice in those soft drinks probably is where the bacteria got into your system and made you really, really sick." Or it could have been Morocco, because I don't want to be racist or anything like that, but God, what a bunch of thieves. I didn't think I was going to get out of there. I was with these two poor Canadian girls, and I thought they were going to get sold to a harem or something like that. Oh my God, it was horrible. So we gave them 15,000 pesetas and rent. Alexa, how much is 15,000 pesetas?
15,000 Mexican pesos is about 844 US dollars and 7 cents.
Alexa, how much is 15,000 Spanish pesetas?
15,000 ESP is about 97 US dollars and 38 cents.
All right, well that's not a lot. Back then it was. Alexa, how much is 5,000 Spanish pesetas?
From xrate.com. For 5,000 pesos, you get today 1,999 pesos 64 centavos.
Fuck. Alexa, how much is 5,000 Spanish pesetas in American money?
From 100hourboard.org. Using this inflation calculator from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that is equivalent to 2,730.
Alexa, shut up. Alexa, now listen very carefully. Alexa, how much is 5,000 Spanish pesetas worth in American money?
I don't know that.
Fuck. Alexa, how much is 5,000 Spanish pesetas worth?
5,000 ESP is about 32 US dollars and 46 cents.
Alexa, how much is 1,000 pesetas worth? Alexa, how much is 1,000 Spanish pesetas worth?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, 1,000 pesos is equivalent to $48.17 in US dollars.
Alexa, how much is 1,000 Spanish pesetas worth?
From expatsinmexico.com. Rarely do I come across a 1,000 pesos note, which is currently worth about 50 US dollars.
This is the brilliant artificial intelligence that's going to be taking over the world, folks. Alexa, how much is 1,000 Spanish pesetas worth?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, 1,000 pesos is equivalent to $48.17 in US dollars.
Alexa, how much is 1,000 Spanish pesetas worth?
From Duolingo.com. 1,000 pesos is slightly more than $50.
Alexa, how much is 1,000 Spanish pesetas worth?
From expatsinmexico.com. Rarely do I come across a 1,000 pesos note, which is currently worth about 50 US dollars.
Useless. And for the record, the peseta is no longer a currency, but for some reason they keep track of it anyways, which is kind of weird, but I guess they're figuring someday these countries might go and get really angry and do away with the euro. per dollar. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, 1,000 Spanish pesetas is $6.49. All right, well, I tried. I'm going to say it one more time. One more time. I was vaccinated 3 times. I was pro-vaccine. I realized the vaccines were, for the most part, safe and effective. The dangers involved are very, very low compared to the benefits. And most of the harm did not come from the vaccine. It came from the COVID virus itself, which people confused actually with the vaccine. It was the virus that got in people's hearts and killed people, not the vaccine. I took the vaccine. I support the people taking vaccine. I was sort of on the side of making people take the vaccine, but now in retrospect, I think that we forgot about civil liberties and maybe we went a little crazy. I think people should have worn masks because it was an emergency situation. I never said that the vaccines were dangerous or that we shouldn't take them. What I said was, what does freedom of speech mean? Does freedom of speech mean that you get to say dangerous things or things that are factually wrong? And I said, I'm not sure. It depends on how harmful what you're saying. It depends on how much harm you're doing. But we have to be very careful because what really will do harm is doing away with free speech. Or even with guns. We can be guns are dangerous. They don't do a lot of good in society. It would probably be a good thing to regulate them. But to ban them and to take them away from civilians completely, that's a little Orwellian. And I'm a communitarian. I'm not necessarily a civil libertarian, although I'm moving back to being a civil libertarian because I'm a little scared now what I'm seeing in society, both from the left and the right. They both want to, anybody that disagrees with people on the right, they get screamed at. Anybody that disagrees with people on the left, they get canceled and shouted down. And this isn't good. So I'm not saying that the vaccines were bad. I'm pro-vaccine. I'm pro-science. The purpose of the rant was only about free speech. What can we say? What is the social utility of allowing people to say things that we don't think are true and that are obviously false? But isn't that what freedom? Isn't freedom dangerous? How dangerous do we want freedom to be? And that was the gist of the video that they took down. I didn't even talk about my diarrhea.